Deep in the slums of 19th century St. Petersburg, a starving former student isolates himself in a rented garret the size of a cupboard. His name is Rodion Raskolnikov. He's completely cut himself off from the world, lying on a ragged sofa for days at a time, stewing in poverty and intense intellectual arrogance. Raskolnikov has published an article outlining a grand theory. He believes humanity is divided into two groups. The vast, ordinary mass exists simply as material to reproduce, but a tiny, extraordinary elite, the Napoleons of history, have the inherent right to step over existing morals. They are allowed to shed blood and break the law to push humanity forward. Lying in the dark, he convinces himself that he belongs to this extraordinary few. He rationalizes that the normal rules of human decency simply do not apply to an intellect as sharp as his. To prove this hypothesis, he decides to murder an elderly, abusive pawnbroker. He plans it precisely, fully believing his cold, calculated logic will insulate him from any feelings of human guilt or hesitation. This story explores an ideological stress test. What happens when a human intellect tries to permanently overwrite human nature? Dostoevsky puts Raskolnikov's pure logic up against the reality of being human to see which one breaks first. After Raskolnikov murders the pawnbroker and her sister, his grand theory immediately crashes into a wall of biological rejection. His nervous system immediately revolts. He falls into days of delirious fevers and severe shivering. When he is called to the police station, the mere smell of wet paint and the mention of the murder cause him to faint dead away. He walks the streets acting heavily intoxicated, unable to control his own shaking limbs. A true Superman, unburdened by ordinary morality, would not feel nauseous over blood. Instead, Raskolnikov's body is actively betraying his intellectual arrogance, proving his flesh is bound to the same human laws he thought his mind had permanently transcended. As his health deteriorates, his mother and sister arrive to care for him. Instead of finding comfort, Raskolnikov treats them with inexplicable cruelty. He even admits to himself that he feels a literal physical hatred for them, unable to bear their presence in his room. He actively attacks the people who love him most because their genuine affection demands a human response. To accept their love means acknowledging his own humanity, the very thing he just tried to murder inside himself. He isolates himself because his family's existence anchors him to the moral universe he tried to permanently sever. Every look of concern from his mother is a reminder that he is still a human son, not a detached god. Enter Porfiry Petrovich, the lead investigator on the murder case.
Porfiry serves perfectly as Raskolnikov's intellectual foil. He lacks physical evidence to make an arrest, so he abandons the crime scene and initiates a campaign of psychological warfare. Porfiry creates a psychological vacuum. He rambles and drops hints, allowing Raskolnikov's own narcissism and paranoia to trap him. The tactic works flawlessly. The paranoia violently consumes his arrogance. Raskolnikov's lip twitches violently during their meetings. His ego drives him to return to the police station voluntarily, engaging in manic, desperate attempts to outsmart the detective. He demands to be arrested just to end the agonizing suspense. Raskolnikov subconsciously wants to be caught. The mental gymnastics of maintaining his lie are agonizing, and punishment would offer a release. Yet his immense pride prevents him from simply turning himself in. Eventually, the intellect runs out of defenses. Nowhere left to run, Raskolnikov seeks out Sonia, a deeply impoverished, religious young woman familiar with immense tragedy. He goes to her tiny room to confess. While Porfiry has given him plenty of room to maneuver legally, Raskolnikov has reached the limits of his spiritual endurance. In her small room, the truth finally bleeds out. He tries to explain his grand theory, but listening to himself, he realizes how hollow it sounds. He tells her, "I only wanted to have the daring, Sonia. That was the whole cause of it." And then he delivers the ultimate realization. "I killed myself, not that old woman."
This confession marks the permanent dropping of the Superman mask. He is forced to embrace the terrifying vulnerability of an ordinary, exhausted human being who has made a catastrophic error. Raskolnikov turns himself in and is sentenced to a labor camp in Siberia. But Dostoevsky refuses to give us a neat cinematic redemption arc. Raskolnikov is not instantly cured or suddenly righteous after his confession. For a long time in the prison camp, he remains grumpy, unrepentant, and utterly isolated from the other convicts. They look at him with distrust, and he looks down on them. The labor is hard and the food is poor, but Raskolnikov suffers most from a stinging, deep-seated embarrassment. He is haunted by the fact that he hopelessly, stupidly, failed to live up to his own grand theory. The final turning point requires a total surrender of that pride. After a long illness in the prison hospital, he looks out the window and sees Sonia waiting patiently in the distance by the gates, just as she has done every single day. That silent, unwavering presence finally breaks his remaining ego. Raskolnikov's psychological roadmap proves that true human connection and conscience cannot be bypassed by theoretical ideologies. You cannot outthink your own humanity, and trying to do so only breaks the mind.